Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Let me see who's on. The only person that's on right now is Finance Unfolded, and I don't think he's down, but I just invited him. Let's see. Yeah, hey, thank you for coming in. How are we doing on our stock trade since you're the only one here? You changed your name, right? It was something else, and now it's Find Fulfilling Work. Well, hopefully you can get to 2,000 or 1,000 followers, and we can do a dual live stream. That would be really cool. What should I buy? You should ask that question once you get the account. But right now, I like Airbnb and Coinbase. Airbnb and Coinbase are two stocks I'm really bullish on. What do you think, Nerd Finance? Since we have Nerd Finance in the chat, and let me know. I'm sure you're working, so you're not able to do a dual live. But maybe in the chat, Nerd Finance, you can let us know. What do you think of Airbnb and Coinbase? I'm actually gonna go grab my phone right now and buy some. Yeah, that ADU video, that's cool, yeah. But the ADU video, I know like that's cool, but I don't feel like a lot of people can take advantage of that. You know what I mean? Like, I like making real estate investing videos, but the problem is most people can't take advantage of real estate. That's why I like talking about crypto and stuff. Well, if you're working right now, maybe in the chat, just give us a yes or no. What do you think? Do you think Airbnb and Coinbase are good stocks, or does that require you to come on the live stream? Because someone just asked me, they're opening up an interactive brokers and they were thinking of stocks to buy, and just right now, those are the two stocks I really like, Coinbase and Airbnb. But there's a bunch of other stocks too that I can talk about. So yes, sir. Oh, good. Let us know why you're not going to buy it. And while you're saying you're not going to buy it, I'm going to go grab my other phone because I'm going to buy it right now. But give us your reason why you wouldn't buy Coinbase or Airbnb, and I'll be right back. Do I ever leave my house? Yeah, I go to the gym every morning. That's my dictator. I made the dictator angry. Okay, I come over there. And he's like yelling at me. So what about Airbnb? You're talking about Coinbase, nerd? 1 second. Okay, hold on. Okay, 1 second. The dictator's yelling at me. Dictator's like, you can't live stream. What about Airbnb though? You wouldn't buy Coinbase, would you buy Airbnb? And literally right now I'm gonna go buy some. Hey Annie, can you give me the price for Coinbase and Airbnb? Annie's gonna tell me right now what the price is. If the price is right, I'm gonna go buy it on my other phone.
Going down.
Yeah, The background's pretty funny. Trying to make you guys laugh.
Coinbase.
What's the Coinbase price? Annie's gonna tell us right now. Well, they don't own any real estate, huh?
200. Oh, 232.
For Coinbase or Airbnb? Coinbase.
Coinbase.
Okay, so I like Coinbase at 232. So I'm gonna go buy some right now. What else?
100.
Good morning. Hey, stock market, if you're available, let's go ahead and do a double live. We were talking about Coinbase and Airbnb. I don't think we talked about that on our last live stream. So if you want to invite me and do a double live. And while I wait for Stock Market Daddy to do a double live with me, I'm going to buy some Coinbase and Airbnb right now. Got my other phone, guys.
Go down.
Stock market, you do not buy it yet? Come on the live stream. Tell me why you're not going to buy yet. Well, I'm still going to buy a little bit. Because my average for both of them are much, much higher. So even if the price goes down, get my average. Here we go.
Buy Coinbase yet.
How you doing?
Hey, don't buy Coinbase.
Why?
Hold off. They have the Fed is meeting right now. They haven't released all the information, but I know there's some crypto talk involved. So you may get a better buying opportunity this afternoon.
Okay. I'll wait.
I'm not saying it's a buy. I would just wait. Like the SPY is coming down quite a bit, and they have some there's some crypto talk in what they're talking about now with the Fed. So you may get a better buying opportunity this afternoon. I'd probably hold off at least a minute or two and see what's happening with that.
What do you think of Airbnb?
Love it. You know that. I think I picked up a little bit a few days ago. But I think it's something that is you're gonna have to be patient with. It's not like something you're gonna pick up for a week or so. It's if you have the money to go long term with it, I absolutely love it. I know you have some dealings with them, right? Some of your properties you Airbnb out.
I've done Airbnb, but the main reason I like Airbnb is because like they have no operating expense.
Right.
Like a real hotel, you got to pay for employees, you got to do all this BS. Like literally, the only labor they pay for is their stupid customer service, and their customer service they outsource to like the Philippines. It's not even like customer service. So we got someone in the chat. Someone in the chat is shorting Bitcoin.
It's probably not a bad idea now with this crypto. Every time this lady comes, Janet Yellen is a crypto killer. So for today or this afternoon, it may not be a bad idea.
Freaking Janet Yellen. That is funny.
For Airbnb, if you can pick them up, even at this price point, if you're willing to hold it for a year, it's a steal. I know they came out with some new. They were supposed to have big news yesterday, and I think it was. I didn't read all the way through. But there's something about, I think they're trying to lessen the arrangements for being an Airbnb host. And that's just kind of what I took from it. So I don't know how that's going to affect the stock. I do kind of want to absorb that a little bit.
I can speak about it because I'm a host. So one thing they did is they got rid of, in my area, Irvine, you can't do short-term stays anymore. So they finally got legit. So for me to do Airbnb, I have to get a guest for 30 days minimum. And in a way, it's actually more profitable for them because what I used to do is I used to do like a 3-day or a 5-day stay. And if they wanted to extend, I would just go around Airbnb, like I don't want to pay them any more fees. Now, because, Irvine has like a short-term rental ban, if I get a customer, they have to go through Airbnb at least for a month. And all that commission I'd normally get around because I'd maybe just do like a 2 or 3-day stay. And if I like them, then I would extend and go around the service. I can't do that anymore.
Now, let me ask you a question though. Doesn't that raise a little bit of concern for you? I know at least before, I may be wrong currently, with New York with a stay over 30 days, it started to get into a gray area of tenant. Rather than a short-term stay, a 30-day stay with like a tenant, and they had like tenant rights. Am I off base there? Or?
Yeah, so I think the way it works at the end of the day, though, the if you tell like the cops that Airbnb, as soon as you issue money for rent, they say you have to go to court. But
Mhm.
at the same time, I mean, you can just lock them out, and that person that gets locked out also has to go to court to say he was a tenant. But yeah, so as soon as you tell the cops that you exchanged money for rent, they say it's a civil matter, and you guys go to court to figure it out. If the guy can prove that he has like mail at your property, the cops will say you have to let him in. But if you cannot prove that he has any mail at the property, they'll say no. This guy, we can't let you in the property, but you can go to court and you can sue and say that you were a tenant. But once again, it's really unlikely a court's going to enforce that they're a tenant if they didn't stay there for more than 28 days, and especially if you have the Airbnb platform.
But you're suggesting that if you say this is an Airbnb, that they're more willing to get them out?
Well, no. The best way to get them out is you say they never gave you any money. If you really
Okay.
want to get them out, you just say, no, this guy never paid me. I don't know
Right.
who he is. He's trespassing. As soon as you say that you collected money for rent, they're going to say you have to go to court. But see, once again, like if they don't have Airbnb or they can't prove to the cops that they paid you, then the cops will remove them from the property. They'll say that no, you're trespassing. You can't prove that you paid this person, and then they're out.
It's an avenue that I have a few properties here. One of them I got really screwed over on with the rents. You're out in California, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
I,
And
I
so
know
did
with
you
New
do
York,
Airbnb or did you do normal
no,
rentals?
these ones I have a few of them are apartments, and then I have one is a whole house. And the one is a whole house. It's an older home, but I've done well on it because I've owned it for like 25 years now. I bought it when I was really young. It's a really old farmhouse that like we fixed up. We fixed it up ourselves when we were like in our 20s and like had to go back and redo all our crap work. It was like one of my first investments. But I've always rented it out to this older guy. It's in a really small town. But I've gotten really screwed over on the rent during coronavirus with the eviction moratorium. So I had kind of thought because of its location, it's really like a wooded area. I thought, maybe like hunters. So I would like go that avenue with not a city at all. But I was like, maybe I can get decent money from like hunters or something. I have to do something different with it because the coronavirus kind of scared me with the rent. But I've only been on the Airbnb as a customer side, not on the other side. But I've heard a lot of people have great experience with it, like a really good experience with it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it just depends on your price point. The higher the price, the higher quality renter you get. So
Right.
if it's a low price, you're usually going to get obviously a lower quality person. But it's kind of random when it comes to Airbnb. But I've noticed that yeah, if you rent in a nice area and it's a higher price, you're not going to have any issues. But once it's like in a bad area and the price is lower,
I
you
I
might
love them
get.
though. Company I absolutely love. Like my fam, I have a big family. We'll all go like where we used to go to like hotels before. They were very pricey. We can now get like these immaculate 6-bedroom houses in Miami for a week. We pay like a G a piece. You know what I mean? They get the total expense. We'll get like 6 families to go. It's got a pool. It's got I mean, the app itself and the business itself is creative and has a really that is like just like Uber. Like you can't really. I have a house in upstate New York. They used to have a taxi service. That taxi service went
Mhm.
out of business.
Yeah.
Airbnb is going to do a lot of damage to the hotel business. Like they're probably the future of vacation. And even on the app, you see them doing even more stuff, integrating. When you go on there, like here's what you can do in town. So I don't think that that's all of their business. I think there is a lot of room to grow in their business, and I
There's
think
no fee.
they're probably going to be up in the lower 200s, probably by 20 like this time 2022. I could see that stock in the lower 200s for sure.
Yeah, because like just let's talk about Airbnb's expense. Like what, that's what makes Uber and like these other companies, even like DoorDash, it's like, what is their expense? They just have like
Right.
a service line. Like,
Yeah.
imagine the expense of running a hotel, all the employees, all the real estate costs, property tax. Airbnb never pays any property tax.
The only thing that would hurt them significantly is a series of bad news. Like if something were to happen by a host, like through like a lack of vetting or something like that. That would be the only thing that I could see, but it would really take probably a couple of those. Hey, mass serial killer kills family in Airbnb, something like that. But it would take a few of them, you know what I mean, to really ruin their reputation. But at this point, they're very, very strong and really no competition. If you were to come up with the similar product, you'd be so far behind them and be so considered RC Cola that I really don't think you can compete with them at this point.
And when it comes to investing, that's the key. If you can invest in monopolies, like another monopoly I kind of know is Boeing, right? Boeing's a great monopoly. There's just like these certain stocks where it's like there's really no competition and it's easy money. And then yeah, thank you for answering that question. Someone was like, "Oh, if I take my money out of Robinhood and put it in another exchange, you will have to pay taxes if you sell, but if you do a transfer, there's no taxes. So if you transfer your stock, no taxes. If you sell it and then put it in another exchange, there's taxes." Wow.
But if
So
you
he's saying, you want to comment
go
on
ahead.
this? He's saying Airbnb's 80 times revenue, but I think it'll grow into that.
I
Airbnb
think
will grow into the.
Airbnb is very young. Airbnb is a stock market baby. It's still breastfeeding. Right? Airbnb is a baby. You got to give it some time. That is for you got to. We like I've told you before that you do have a lot of stocks where I feel like some growth is already priced in. So I can certainly acknowledge that. But when you look, like if you, I think you're seeing with coronavirus kind of suppressed it quite a bit to where I think you would have probably seen some growth already. Take 2020 out of the picture, it was moving in a fantastic direction. And even during coronavirus, had exceptional earning reports. I was shocked when I saw. I was like, wow, people, even in the coronavirus, they seem more apt to use a private residence than a hotel because you're kind
Yeah.
of segregated from everybody else. I think it benefited them in a way. It's just vacations were down, so the numbers are suppressed. You got to give them some time. I mean, they
Yeah.
like
Someone brought this up on the chat. It's like the only thing that's going to stop them is local ordinances and hotel lobby. But I don't know if you guys heard me. So, like my area, they prevent short-term stays now with Airbnb, but it's actually going to help them because me as a landlord, what I would do is I would do like a 1 to 3 day stay, and then I would keep them if they wanted to be a long term, and I go around the website without paying them commission. So if they do these ordinances, they can't stop after like, you can block short-term stays, but you have to let someone stay 30 days or longer. And that's actually more profitable for Airbnb to be able to get these like 30-day stays because, they make a cutoff of it. And yeah.
and you're
And I guess
you're you're only
VBRO is the
hotel.
competitor. VBRO. Have you ever used VRBO?
Never even heard of them.
Okay, yeah, I know my uncle uses them and he says it sucks. So my uncle, he also has his own Airbnb business, and he says, because like I'm too lazy, Airbnb just brings me so much business, I don't need to use
Right.
VRBO. But my uncle told me that he barely gets bookings, and most of his he says like 95% of his bookings are Airbnb.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm
And so
I'm I'm
Nerd
ordinarily some.
Finance is just really quick. Nerd Finance is saying it's only 20 times the revenue, and most of these techs are like 10 times the revenue. But go ahead.
I saw one of his videos. Yeah, I think he's the guy. If he's commenting there, ask him if he's the guy who was saying Bitcoin is a pyramid scheme. I commented on his video yesterday. He's saying
It's
Bitcoin is a,
probably him. He doesn't believe in Bitcoin. Yeah, I think that's the right guy. Yeah.
and I
So
say this respectfully, sir, because you do seem like an educated man. But I think,
yeah, he's an MBA. He's actually
yeah,
getting his MBA at USC.
I mean, he certainly seems educated, intelligent. But when he made a video saying that like the only reason that Bitcoin goes up is because you're selling it to the next man for $1. But anything I've ever done in business, I've made $1 on because I bought it for a lower price than somebody. I think that's very much the basics of commerce, my friend. So I know there's more to it, and I don't want to simplify it to that. But I think that the argument that you made for being bearish on Bitcoin was poor with that example. But I,
No,
but I,
so
but I,
one,
more. He does seem like an educated guy.
So once again, someone's saying, wouldn't it be better to have shorter stays and more people per month? And once again, no, because it allows the landlord to go around the people. So what I would do is, even if someone booked a 4-day stay, they used to let you modify it. Because I'd be like, oh, because what Airbnb used to do is, obviously, if you don't like the guest, you can get them to agree to modify the stay. And so even if they had like a 4 or 5 day stay, I would be like, hey, just modify it to 1 or 2 days and I'll give you a discount.
Right.
And then
Right.
all of a sudden, Airbnb made it where you cannot modify it. Like, it has to be a 3-day minimum. You can't even modify out of it.
Right. There was a time I was doing a lot of business in Rochester, New York, and I found this really nice girl. She had an Airbnb, and we were doing a similar type of thing where she wanted me to have at least 1 day on the books, but sometimes I'd have to extend my stay, and she'd be like, Chris, just throw me cash. It's not a problem. I was a good guy and stuff. But you also have to take into consideration as the Airbnb host, you do have some cost. So if you have a guest who's there for 3 days and another guest who's there for 3 days immediately afterward, you have to come in. There's cleanup costs associated. I know you can add those to the fees, though, but there's also time out of your day. You may have to pay a property manager. So I think with the extended stay for the host as well, it's going to be a little bit more profitable and would probably have people more apt to want to use their service who may have been hesitant before. I think it's a win-win for both parties. Like I said, my only concern would just be the legality and like getting people out, and are they getting overly comfortable, because it is a rental. So I think you just want to maybe vet people quite well. Like, hey, why are you here? Are you here for business? Are you here? You know what I mean? What is the purpose of
Airbnb does that. So what you can do, because I've never really had a problem with someone that has more than 10 reviews. So you can put into your filter where you only allow people to book that have more than 10 stays.
Okay.
And usually within 10 stays, it's obvious they're going to be bad, because the only time I've had issues with people, like literally their stay before them, or like 2 stays before, they're like, hey, this guy's like really messy, or hey, this guy was smoking weed, in the bathroom. And then it obviously happened to me, and I was like, oh, this is so easy, so transparent, where like if you don't use Airbnb, you don't have that like rating review system, so you can't, it's a little bit harder to vet people.
Right. I think the stock, I love the future of it, and even for some of the people who are looking for an investment opportunity, if you're able to pick up a home now and you're looking for something, and you're in a major city in America, I think that's a fantastic way to make an income now. If you can pick up a decent home that's somewhat near business in your area or the airport or somewhere that's logistically well placed, I think that's a great way to park some cash. A lot of people want to buy and flip. I think it's a nice way to make an income without necessarily having to go through the process and hassle of traditional renting. I think it's a nice avenue for people to consider.
So there's actually a YouTube channel I can recommend, because there's a guy who does something called rental arbitrage, because most people can't afford a property, but they can afford to rent a house. And so this guy has a YouTube channel where like he goes to all these major cities and he literally will rent like 10, 20 units, furnish them, make them Airbnbs, and he's not even an owner. And he just does rental arbitrage. So let's just say he rents like a unit for $2,000 and then he furnishes it, and then with his Airbnb he'll make like $4,000. And if you guys want to look at his YouTube channel, because he goes into details how he does all this rental arbitrage, it's Airbnb automated. So just Airbnb and automated. Yeah, and so that way you don't even have to be the landlord. You can literally just rent a property, and he makes, I believe, over 100,000 a month off his Airbnbs, and he doesn't own anything. He just rents them and negotiates with the landlord.
I will correct you slightly. I don't think there's anybody in your audience. If you want to own a home, you can. It does not. I know a lot of. I said, if you want to own a home, you can own a home. Hold on, I have some connection. But it's very easy to get a home in America. It's really not hard to get a home in America. If you are dedicated, if you put as much time into other things as owning, if you don't own a home right now, you can definitely own a home in America. You are probably not trying hard enough. It is not hard to own a home in America.
You need to leave then, right? You would have to go to another state. Like, I don't know if it's easy to do it in California, but if you go to Arizona or Vegas, you can.
But you may have to move to Ohio or Michigan or somewhere, but to say you cannot own a home is incorrect, because there are a lot of banks who would love to give you money right now if you just had a very basic work history and a couple $1,000s. So if anybody's out there saying, man, I just can't own a home, maybe the city you live in is overly expensive, but there's very few people in America who do not qualify for some form of mortgage. You may get screwed over on the mortgage. It may not be the best mortgage, but it's very hard to not be able to. If you are any type of decent human being who's worked for 2 years, it's very easy to get a mortgage in America.
So let me ask you this then, because you're saying, hey, you're going to have to leave the big city, right? And the big cities usually have the higher paying jobs. And I would say also networking, because, in business, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So if you move to Ohio, you might now like limit yourself, because most billionaires and millionaires, they live in Miami, they live in New York, they live in,
Right.
Los Angeles.
But somebody who's making good money and is networking does not have a problem buying a home. I'm talking about the average Joe in your TikTok audience who just happened to come on and say, man, I got 3 kids and a wife, and I'm just average guy, and we've been renting for years. If you could probably look into buying a home, it just may not be in your area. You know what I'm saying? This is just for the basic guy who's blowing his money, paying $1,000 a month on rent, or $800 a month on $1,200 a month on rent. You could be paying a $700 mortgage and be keeping $500 in your pocket. That's just a fact.
What about a hypothetical where like you're a recent college grad and you can obviously get a higher paying job, but you can't obviously own real estate? And wouldn't that also just like, wouldn't you say for the recent college grad, there's more opportunities if you live in like Seattle?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And in that case, I would recommend the first property that my sister bought was a really crappy 4 apartment. And we had to go in and do a lot of the work ourselves. It was not very nice originally. The neighborhood was not very nice originally, but had a lot of potential. She lived in the smallest, worst of the 4 apartments, and it was the last one that we fixed up. So it was not necessarily comfortable for her for maybe probably about 2 years. But as time went on, she owned more of it. It was a lot nicer. The neighborhood was coming up as well, which was kind of a plus. And after a few years, she moved out of it, got in a better position in life, and put herself in a really great position. So sometimes you have to think, how bad do you want it, and how much are you willing to get? And I know that's not a great answer for everybody, because a lot of professionals can't do that type of work themselves, and there are a lot of variables there. But sometimes you have to think in life, hey, how bad do I want something? What am I willing to say? You put out a video recently where somebody said, hey, I stopped doing something because I wanted to get into the market. And you said, hey, comment what you guys are giving up. That's the type of mindset in life. If you really want to get somewhere, you may not be able to have it all. You know what I mean? And if you're a young person, you have a lot of time to maybe make those sacrifices. There's nobody with a decent job. If all you have to do is have a decent job, right, and be kind of handsome, you can get laid in a crappy apartment, guys. It's okay. You know what I mean? You don't have to have the best. You don't have to have the best one. You know what I mean? As long as you're making money, you can have a crappy apartment, boys. It's okay.
Could I give a real talk? So, I drive a $9,000 car, and before that, I had like a $8,000 hybrid. So I've had 2 really beat up hybrids, and before that, I had a Porsche and a Range Rover at the same time. And I'm telling you right now, I actually got way more tail in the beat up car, and I had to spend way less money because you drive a Porsche and a Range Rover, you can't say, hey, let's, go get McDonald's or something, like.
I think there's something to be said for, there's a lot of people, like you mentioned yesterday, I work in my office a lot. And my office here, I'm in the first floor of my house, and my office here was just really small. So during coronavirus, we totally like retiled the basement, and we started to refinish that. It didn't do the ceiling. And you're like, why is it like that? And I told you, like, I don't need to look rich. Like, if you want to talk to me and you want to talk like finances, if the content of what I'm saying doesn't interest you, then that's fine. But like, don't live life trying to always prove your net worth. Like this house here was another example. We picked this up for like, I think $30,000. I put like another 30 into it. The house is starting to come up now. I do drive a BMW now. I worked really, it was the first nice car I ever bought in my life. I'll be 41 next week. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think some people get hung up on like this TikTok and dudes with Lambos, and no, dude, like you should like own better assets than that. Like I would love to drive a Lamborghini. Would I probably own one? No. I know I could probably get like 15 cars. I could buy 15 cars of them away and
What-
still have 5 cars for that price. I'd be very comfortable with that. Don't live life proving you're rich and proving to yourself. Understand that there's a bigger picture in life. Buy better assets. Don't be afraid to say like, hey, I like, to me, like, my sister's story is good for her. It's humbling to be like, hey, I had to start there. My sister owns 5 properties now, but that's where she started, with that really, really crappy one, and living in it for years and probably feeling a certain level of embarrassment, but just not caring, because she's like, hey, as long as I stay committed, I will get to this goal. That's success in life. It does not fall in your lap. It's not me at my trading desk like, click, click, $1 million. Time to go hit the yacht. It's just not that way, dude. And I just think there's a
Agree with
misconception
you.
that it's that way, and it's just the truth.
And so true. And to be honest, like as a landlord, when I show up to a property and I'm trying to negotiate with my contractors, if I have a Porsche or a Range Rover, it's kind of hard to get a discount, or if I want to raise the rent on my tenants.
Right.
But if I come in a $9,000 car, they're like, "Oh man, this landlord is barely making it. Let's give him a deal."
I had a job one time. I used to manage a roofing company, and the truck that I would usually use, this company truck, was broken. My boss was like, "Take my Jaguar." I'm like, "You really want me to go sell them a roof in a fucking Jaguar?" Like, there's no way they're gonna want to do business with us. They're gonna be like, "They don't, we don't need the money. Obviously, we're doing well." And it's good to have nice things in life. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, don't be afraid to earn them, and don't be afraid to tell people, this is the position I'm in life, and this is where I'm going. Because people can respect that. You know what I mean? If people see a grind, you might not see your own grind, because it's like looking in the mirror. You don't see the change in you. But if you stay committed to a goal, over time, people are going to be like, wow, Dean is really different, dude. He don't go to the bar no more. I used to always see him eating garbage. He's eating really healthy. He's hitting the gym every day. Man, people will notice that kind of stuff. And you can actually be a really good influence on other people in your life. You know what I mean? To say, wow, I saw his commitment. I saw him do it. Talk is cheap, dude. Talk is real cheap in life.
Yeah. And for me, I have the mindset of a minimalist. I really do feel like the less you have, the happier you are. So I don't know. For me, it's easier for me to even take like investment risks because I kind of want a basic lifestyle. I mean, I grew up in an affluent area and I saw how like rich people live, and it didn't necessarily make them more happy. And it also creates a lot of envy, right? Like there's always a lot of jealousy and envy in your life because you're always trying, people envy you and then you're envying other people. And the day that I decided that like I didn't want a big house, I didn't want a nice car, basically I just want like one or two high quality items that last a really long time so I don't pollute the planet. It made my life a lot easier because, like whether I have $1 million or $10 million, there's really no difference for me as long as like my basic needs are fulfilled. I mean, I don't care.
I would always encourage people just to be like, understand the difference between owning something and having an asset. That's just there is a differential there, and I think it does get kind of lost in the shuffle. But I think it comes with age too, because when you're younger, you think things are very obtainable in life that probably are not obtainable. I am probably never going to own a $100 million yacht. I've accepted that in life. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
I don't want. Okay, let's go down this rabbit hole. Even if I was a billionaire, like I don't think I want a yacht. I don't want to pollute the planet.
I would charter one for the weekend. I wouldn't own one. I would
Okay,
charter
maybe charter one. I might
Yeah.
charter one, but like I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to own a yacht. I wouldn't want like a huge mansion. And the only reason I don't want a huge mansion, I have friends that have mansions and there's cobwebs in like random rooms. They don't even use it. You know what I mean? So for
I
me, like I would rather just have like a small place, really simple layout. And what am I going to do with the rest of my money? Well, I mean, one, travel, right? I'm big on travel. Two, I do feel like, I don't know. What is your opinion on climate change? Do you think it's real or you think it's kind of BS?
I think that it is real, but I think that the cause of it, I think people are leading on. I think it has a lot of factors, and I think that when I do have the discussion with people, particularly Americans, that they feel that it's a very like American problem. And I try to emphasize to them that there are manufacturing that's done in other countries that we can't prevent, and it becomes a little bit of a
Hold on. so what if we invest in, because like the way I'm trying to tell people is like, look, instead of buying, $100 million yacht, you could invest in technology that would get rid of this problem. And it's kind of like a double edge, right? Because like you could also benefit because like, if you invest in like a Tesla, for example, right, that's going to help fight climate change. And at the same time, you own a great company.
I don't know if the Earth is getting hotter because of the lack of electric cars, or the fact that the sun just has a really strong gravitational pull and it's just pulling us a few inches closer to it every year. I'm not sure. I just know that it's one of those things where I don't know what to do about the problem, but if you say you're doing something about the problem, I would probably encourage you and give you $1. You know what I'm saying? But I
Yeah,
just don't know.
exactly.
I don't know how to
And if
help you. But
you,
for somebody to say like, I don't like it to be like a huge political argument, because it's just like obviously having clean water is important. Nobody would argue with that. So clean up the waters. like being responsible with garbage
but I
is a
don't
good.
think the government can do it. I think the government will always fail us and always there's like, people getting kickbacks. I feel like the private market can fix a lot of these problems. So if you do believe in climate change, the best way to fix it is not like, oh, give money to this charity and they're going to plant trees. That's kind of bogus. It's like, no, you can invest in the next startup that can solve this problem. And it's like a two-way where you benefit too. I mean, you can become more wealthy if your company actually solves this problem. And that's what I want to tell everyone is that like, there's a lot of people that are like hustled into doing charities and like I've worked at charities and like they have no incentive to fix the problem. But if it's a
Right.
private business, they will fix the problem. And like literally most of these problems, it's private businesses that will fix it. And you can actually put your money into that. So instead of buying a Gucci watch or a Range Rover, you can invest in really cool technologies. The other technology I want to invest in, you saw how Elon Musk got monkeys to play video games with their minds, right?
No,
Yeah, so it's like,
that is
why do I want a Range Rover or why would I want a boat when I can basically be an owner of like a way where, I can use my mind to open the door. Like I can I can use my phone, but I don't even have to like touch it. I just
I
think.
know I interrupted your coin trade. I'm looking now, and I don't think whatever they said is hurting it. It's popping again, so I feel bad.
Okay,
Even
buy more Coinbase and buy more Airbnb.
I think I might pick up some too today. I think it's ready. I mean, it's just hitting the 5% mark now. I'll probably let it come back down a touch, maybe back but I am going to pick up some more because I want to make
So
my.
what are your thoughts?
I
What
want
are
to
your
get out.
thoughts on like
What's that?
say that one more time?
I want to
What are
get
your
out of Coinbase. I'm still at like a cost average of like 260. I loaded up so much on IPO day. I have to be able to exit some of it at some point. I have way
Okay,
too much.
cool.
Yeah, I have way
Okay.
too.
So what are your thoughts? Because like I kind of want to go on this discussion. It's like, why give money to a charity or why let the government? Because I do feel like charities and the government, they don't have the same incentive as like a private business. And that's why I don't know. I kind of want to open people's eyes to that. Like, hey, there's a lot of private businesses that can really make the world a better place if you know what you're doing.
I think that there's some truth to that. It's just what I think for like I know I've had similar experiences with you with charities where I've given money to a charity, and the charity they have paid people on the payroll, and a lot of people on the payroll, and not a lot of money actually goes to the charity. And I'm pretty upset about that. It's like charity to me, like I grew up a little bit religious. And I know like in America, the Catholic Church is the #2 charitable organization next to the US government. So the US government is #1. The Catholic Church is #2. Regardless of what you think about it, and that's not the discussion I want to have. But even in the Catholic Church, they have fraud and all kinds of stuff. So it's something that's kind of unavoidable. Anytime there's money involved, there's going to be some scheming off and what have you. With a company that is, particularly one that's publicly traded, they do have to have a little bit more clarity in their reports and what have you. So there is something good to that, where it's like, okay, hey, the money went here, the money went here. They're although it is possible to be fraudulent with the accounting, because it's publicly traded, is a little more scrutinized. So there's certainly a benefit with that.
But
I
they're
don't see.
creating jobs too. Like, do you want more priests? Priests are not going to solve the problem. Or do you want more engineers?
Well,
Like,
that
you want to give
now
more
that
money
now,
to the church?
now that's a debate that we could have for hours and hours. To be honest,
You think
but I
priests
do.
will solve the problem? You think priests will solve all of the world's problems? You just pray
All,
and then the
all
problem
of the
will
world's
go
problems.
away.
I know some men and women who could have some of their problems solved by a priest, but that's not the discussion I want to have. I see where you're going. I just think that there are some that are a little bit speculative. So I see your thought process. I just think that like with Tesla is a very good example. That's a good example of somebody who was able to say, I want to do this. Here's the effect we think it will have, and he actually put it into production. Tesla is an example of success. There's probably 30, 40, 100 failures for every Tesla.
Yeah.
And there's the issue. You know what I mean? It's
So
find
really,
the ones that are going to be successful.
so really quick, someone just asked, what was the YouTube channel? It's Airbnb. It's Airbnb Automated. So automated. If you want to learn more about rental arbitrage, but here's the deal. You just said that there's a risk in Tesla, correct? And like, there's like maybe let's just say for every one Tesla, 20 fail, right? But here's the deal. You got 20x on your money. If you got in on Tesla, like if you put in, let's just say $10,000, you have now 200 grand. So,
Right.
and then remember, if your company fails, you at least get a tax deduction. And I guess like charities, you do get also a tax deduction. But at the end of the day, if that company failed, there might be another company that will emerge, and eventually one of them will be your Tesla. So it's like, let's just say you invest $1,000 on 10 companies, right? And maybe 8 of them go to zero, but if 2 of them hit and you get 20x, you still, you're going to be, your $10,000 becomes 40,000, you know?
I think that I've changed a little bit over time, but I think I've always been one to more think like, hey, let's just make money and then take the money and solve the problems. I've never really thought until more recently of private business being the avenue to solve the problem. So I have evolved a little bit on it. You know what I'm saying? But it took me a while to get to that place. And like I said, I've seen a lot of failed companies that it sounded so
Failed
good.
companies still create jobs too. Once again, like if you give it to a charity, you're going to hire more priests. If you give it to a company that fails, it's still giving jobs to engineers and people that can actually build stuff to solve the problem instead of praying, and hoping to solve it.
I would just want to see I want to see like there's some stuff that I've heard. I really like some of the fields that deal with the ocean. And I know it's difficult, but I hear a lot of people that are talking
Can
about
you do
like
research on this?
a
Actually,
little
because
bit.
I want to do this for our TikTok. Let's start promoting like companies. And once again, I think that we just made Tesla an example, right? And then I guess I don't know if I told you, one company I really like is Enphase Energy. Have you heard of them?
No, no.
No? Okay, so it's
Give
a
me
solar company.
wait. Give me. You can keep talking. Give me 1 second. I like to have a notebook when we talk because I always take notes. So let me grab
Yeah,
my
yeah, go
notebook.
ahead and grab your notebook. And so this is what I want to do. So when I had what's his name on here, Nerd Finance was on here, and so what we did is we looked at this ETF. The ETF is Clean Technology. It's okay. Yeah, you've mentioned this. You know what? I'll have him research it. By the way, Elon, I'll have him. Yeah, string trend. Okay, cool. We're gonna talk about your stock too. We're gonna do some research and we're gonna talk about it. And then hold on. Do you think Bitcoin will drop to 20K? I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if you guys have seen my video. I just say dollar cost average. No one knows what's going to happen to Bitcoin. So I know someone's like, oh, I bought Bitcoin at 56K. Just take $5 a day and buy $5 a day of Bitcoin. If your average price is 56,000, just buy a little bit every day, an average, and you can obviously hold long term. You will make money. Yeah, I'm bullish on Airbnb. But okay, so now that you're back, let me explain to you what we did. So I had what's his name on here, Nerd Finance, and so
Yeah.
there's a ETF that's on clean technology. It's called
Okay.
ICLN. That's the ETF, ICLN. And so what he did is he pulled up the top 10 holdings and he started going through the balance sheets. And I guess like a
Okay.
lot of them, their balance sheets were not good. The number one holding was good, their balance sheet. And then I guess
Mm-hmm.
the other one was Enphase Energy, which is ENPH,
Yeah,
and
familiar.
it's the number 3. And so basically these are, and what Enphase Energy does is they take solar power and they store it into batteries. And so this is going to be huge on, like, you know how like Texas had the outage? If we have a
Mhm.
smart grid that runs on batteries, it'll literally make all of our energy use way more efficient.
What do you what are your thoughts on nuclear energy?
I think it's a good idea. I think
That's
we can get rid of
phenomenal.
nuclear waste. Yeah, we can get rid of nuclear waste through space. Like, what people don't realize is that we can literally put this nuclear waste on a spaceship and send it out. Because that's the only drawback to nuclear technology, is that, like, what do you do with the nuclear waste? But, like, because now Elon Musk has made space travel really cheap with renewable rockets, it's, yeah, like, nuclear is like a no-brainer. Oh, and then thank you for this, thorium. There's this new way to make the reactors with thorium, and
Yeah.
it's basically way safer and way cleaner.
Yeah, I think it's something that I bring it up in conversations like this. I
Hey,
think it's something that
we need
gets
to talk about this. There's a company, if you want to write it down, it's Unit Sky String Transport.
okay.
So what they're proposing is that they can take a lot of this environmental waste and all like the harmful stuff and basically do it in space. And if you do it in space, you obviously don't pollute the earth.
But then you have to figure, does the rocket fuel that it takes to lift it into space affect like you have to weigh that,
I
you know
don't
what I
think
mean? Like,
rocket fuel I don't think rocket fuel is bad as like leaving nuclear waste, on the ground.
no,
You know what I
I'm not
mean?
sure. I don't claim to be a physicist either, so it's like I
And
don't know.
I guess in the future, I mean, sorry, if it's a reusable rocket, we could have nuclear powered rockets, right? Hypothetically, is that something you could do?
Like conversations like this, I do find myself, it's like I'm these are types of things where I don't necessarily have the answers to them. I do like to lean on others' expertise. um I just think, I mean, if there's I think you're certainly right in the fact that if it's obviously advantageous for everyone, and if it's profitable, it's something that I'm interested in. I've just found so many that have not really been profitable, and it's
I think Enphase will be. The one stock I can tell you guys that will make the world a better place, and it's a legit business, is ENPH. Do you want to look at the financials and let me know your thoughts?
I am I'm somebody who like, if you like, when you talk about like when you talk about like humanitarianism and things of that nature.
Uh-oh, his internet cut out.
Very,
Let me read the comment. Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Your internet cut out, but go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, just
You're
continue. No, continue. Your internet was out. That's the only reason I was talking. Go ahead.
batteries. I get messages all day. The like I my focus, like, if I like usually if I give to a charity, I like to make sure like there's no starving children. I do a lot of charity, like child abuse. Like, clean energy is not one of my like biggest things that I like the conversation, and things of that nature. But I like my like type of philanthropy has always been like more towards children. The conditions in Africa, Southeast Asia, things of that nature. So a lot of these types of conversations are not conversations that I
But so
have.
then hold on, let's go down this rabbit hole. If you have all these people in Africa industrialized, like let's just say they get there, it's going to create even more pollution, right? It's going to
I
make the
understand.
world even, because like right now, they say China's the number one polluter, right? But if Africa industrializes, they're going to pollute just like China. And if they actually have the clean technology to do solar panels and all this stuff, it's not going to only just benefit the Africans, it's going to benefit the entire world. So if you
This
just
is
give them food, that's great. But if you create all this overpopulation and then no one fixes it, we're gonna this
no,
happens in
I
biology all the time. If there's
I,
overpopulation, the species
I
gets
agree
wiped out.
100%. I agree 100%. And actually, the two conversations overlap quite a bit. And that's why China and Russia are making huge investments in Africa, because we're at a point right now, infrastructure wise, where we're going to be one of the oldest countries at some point. Bridges, roads. China and Africa are probably going to be the two best markets to be in 20 years. By the time I'm dead, the African market will probably be one of the
You're gonna
best
die at
markets.
60, bro? You don't think you're gonna make it 100?
I've been smoking cigarettes since I was 12. I'm not.
Okay, but I'm
I
gonna
work.
invest in biotechnology that will give you a brand new lung, bro. My tech stocks that I'm investing in, you're
I'm
gonna
not
be
gonna need
alive
one.
to see my investments.
I'm not gonna need one. I'm gonna need two. But
Have
hold
you
on.
heard of
Tell me.
CRISPR? I'm gonna give you a stock. Have you heard of CRISPR?
Yeah.
Dude, so that's
Yes.
gene editing. That's gene
Yes.
editing where if it works out, they can basically manipulate it where the cancerous cells will all die. With gene editing, they can put in stuff where literally if you have cancer from smoking, the cancer will go away through gene editing and CRISPR through CRISPR therapies.
Hold on. I'm looking at your end
So isn't
phase.
it funny? Like all these things, you're like, oh, I'm gonna die from smoking. There's a possibility the money I put in these stocks will save you in the future. You
It is
know, and that's
possible.
the funny thing. People get distracted. They're like, oh, let's give money to like homeless people and starving people on the street, which you should try to help. I mean, obviously, like I do want to get rid of homelessness, but the problem is a lot of these charities and a lot of these politicians, they have no incentive to solve the problem because they, you know, like that's how they, that's how they stay in power, right? To have these problems. And it's like if you give money to a business, they have to solve the problem or they go bankrupt.
That's not. It's definitely the truth. I would do you own Enphase? I'm gonna look into them a little bit
Yes,
more.
I
There's
own it. It's one of my larger holdings. Enphase is, and when Texas crashed, by the way, my friend got what's it called? Carbon monoxide poisoning. He's one of my
Mhm.
best friends, dude. He grew up with me. He moved to Texas. His entire electric grid shut down. He slept by a fireplace, and he got carbon monoxide poisoning. And if he actually had backup battery, because like they only lost power for 72 hours, but if he had an Enphase system installed in his house, he would have been able to continue to have heat. He would have never got carbon monoxide poisoning. And at the end of the day, what people don't realize is you pay a lot of electric expense because it's like during the peak hours. And the way the battery technology works is like when it's not peak, you take energy off the grid, so you get the cheapest energy. And then when it goes into those peak hours, you use the battery. And what's even better is if you have a solar system, your solar system sells into the grid and you make money.
It's interesting. I'm gonna look at their numbers later. It's I mean it's they don't seem terrible. I mean a lot of the companies that I've looked up in this space, they're just I mean I it's obviously a lot of companies don't want to be at a profit, and the way they want to reinvest, they want to be in growth, but a lot of companies in this space, I feel like they're not bringing anything to market is the problem I find with them, and this doesn't seem
They
to be the
have to,
case
like
here.
any of these companies, at the end of the day, they're employing engineers. They're employing people that can solve problems. And let's just say that company goes bust. Well, that engineer will go to another company, right? But the main thing is you want the money going towards the engineers to solve this problem, right? And if one company fails, another company will hopefully pick up and and fix it.
It's interesting. I'm gonna give them a further look. You know,
Yeah, let's
it
do this and let's do like a once a week talk on just like basically green. If it's not green technology, the other one I like too is bio biopharmaceutical, like basically what is it? Biotechnology. Because it is
yeah.
crazy. I know that you're not like optimistic about it, but I mean in
No, I
20 years,
am.
man.
I am. I like companies that are bringing something to the market, like currently. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't.
That's not how you
They're
get to 20x, right? Like, okay, so maybe 80% of your portfolio or 90% of your portfolio is the companies that are established. It's like, easy money. But you need that 10% of Bitcoin, right? The 10%, and it's like these Bitcoin stocks, they could go to the moon. And if they don't, you still get a tax deduction and you're helping making the world a better place, right? Like if that engineer gets that job at that startup company that fails, he'll go to another company and eventually, the knowledge that's accumulated from all these failing companies, like one company will become a Tesla and it'll really make the world a better place.
I understand your thought process, and I think there's some truth to it and a lot of good to it. I guess maybe I'll make myself more clear. I would like to be. I don't have the scientific know-how to sometimes differentiate a company that is really onto something than a company that is living in science fiction world. You understand what I mean?
And so we'll use TikTok.
Like,
Yeah. So let's use TikTok. I mean, as this TikTok network expands, maybe we can get doctors, we can get like
kind of
really
science.
smart people, and
Kind of,
with TikTok we can talk to anyone. It's like really cool. We can do a live stream with whoever, and as long as we're thinking about it, we'll figure out a solution.
and don't get me wrong, I fully understand that if you had told an investor in 1940 to invest in rocket ships, they'd be like, "You're fucking crazy. That's too speculative." And 20 years later, they went to the moon. So I understand that
What about battery powered cars? If I told you
right.
in 2000, hey, let's invest in battery powered cars, what would you have told me?
Right. So it's a very fine line, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it's tough for me to want to hand somebody some of my money without understanding, like, hey, can you
But
actually
what if
do
it's
this?
1%? What if it's 1% of your portfolio? What if it's 5% of your portfolio? And you have the
I don't
possibility of making the world a better place and 20x.
like losers, dude. I want to have 0% of my portfolio in losers.
Like paying taxes, bro. I hate paying taxes. I love losers because I never sell my winners. Let's talk tax strategy. So for me, I never sell my winners because I obviously don't want to realize the capital gains, and I'm happy to harvest my losers because those losers are going to be a tax deduction on my rental income, on my dividends, right? Don't you agree?
I do agree to some point on many things though. I really like I'm conscious of my taxes, but I am more focused on making money. The taxes I can get so many different tax breaks, and most of my holdings are long holdings. But I day trade a lot, dude. I don't necessarily focus like you're gonna have to pay taxes in life. That doesn't like paying taxes does not bother me. You know what I'm saying? Like my view on it is very, very different from other people because I would just if I say, okay, if I made $100, I had to pay $50 in taxes, I would just focus on making $200. You know what I'm saying? Like I just look at life a little bit differently. The amount of taxes I paid.
The way money compounds, like, okay, let's just say I made $1 million on Amazon stock and I can now borrow $500,000 at 0% to go buy more stock. Wouldn't I rather do that than sell $1 million of Amazon stock and give half of it to the government?
I completely understand. That's why most of what I'm holding are long term. I'm talking 80% of my holdings. I'm probably 20% of my portfolio, but I'm not going to worry about like how should I word it? Maybe I'm wording it wrong. It's just to me, it's just not a concern when it comes to stocks.
Because you don't live in California, but you do live in New York, so you probably get taxed pretty hard.
I don't. I'm in New York. I don't live in New York.
Okay, maybe that's why you don't mind then. You're not paying because for California it's 13%.
I'm just in New York.
Okay, but the tax rate in California is 13%. So if you're in the highest bracket in California and you have to pay that Obamacare tax too, like your tax rate is like 56%, 57%. So why sell?
Not even visit California, and I'm actually going to probably be moving out of New York in the next year. New York is even becoming unappealing to me. So I was born and raised in New York. I live in Florida, but yeah, New York is becoming unappealing to me as well. I'll probably start liquidating my properties here and probably take this show elsewhere.
Yeah, so someone's saying you shouldn't invest money to lose money. You'll get a tax run, blah, blah, blah. But hold on, people don't realize that like I'm making money. I'm just not realizing my gains. So like once again, if I made $1 million in Amazon stock, I'm not going to realize it. So I did make $1 million. I'm just not realizing it. And then if I sell, for example, go ahead.
Tell me his comment again.
Basically they're saying that like, hey, you should just pay the taxes, it's worth it. But I'm letting you guys know that like I make money. It's just not a paper gain. Like if you have $1 million of Amazon stock, that's as good as having $1.5 million of cash. So why would I exchange my Amazon for for $500,000 of cash because you have to pay the taxes when I can control $1.5 million? You see?
No.
And like people don't understand that. So they're like, no, I need to make a profit. I'm like, yes, I'm making a profit. I just don't realize my profits. It's all just an accounting in a tax loophole. And I'm just trying to teach everyone because this is what rich people do.
Right. if you no, you're correct, but you have to think about are you using the stock market to invest, or are you looking the stock market to make money? Because that's where you kind of have to differentiate yourself. Whereas I was
But hold on,
saying
I am making money. If I have
you
$1
are.
million of stock and I sell it,
Let me
I
let me
get
let,
less money.
let
Okay,
me
go ahead.
reword it. Are you using the stock market to invest or to make an income? Because a lot of people want to use the stock market to make an income, and that's
You
where they're
make an
getting.
income by pulling cash out. What you do is, once again, do you want to sell your Amazon and pocket $500,000, or do you take a loan out and then you have $1.5 million?
But they're not what they're. I think they're getting confused in your wording to where they want to
Do
make
you
an
want to use
income.
a credit card? Here's the best way I can say it. Do you want to use a credit card that charges you 25%, or do you want to use your stock account as your credit card and you
I
pay
don't
literally nothing in interest?
understand what you're doing, is what I'm saying. Because they think because you have a portfolio and you're not selling that you cannot
Oh man, you're cutting
paper.
out. You cut out again.
I'm
You
here.
have to reset.
All right.
Start over.
They think because you own Amazon and you're not selling, you're getting rich on paper and therefore not making an income. They don't understand what you're doing. So I think that would be my guess. Is they don't quite understand what you mean. So maybe you could expand on what you're saying, because I think they assume that you have to buy a stock and sell a stock in order to make an income. So maybe if you expand on what you're saying a little bit more, it would help them understand how it is, what it is you're doing with your leverage.
Yeah. So once again, the best example I can make is, like, let's just say you have $1 million of stock. If you sell it, you're gonna put in your pocket $500,000, because if you live in California, half of it goes to the government. But instead of selling it, you can borrow $1.5 million cash, right? And you don't
Yes.
have to necessarily borrow that amount. But the whole
Yes.
idea is that you basically, whenever you need cash, you pull a loan on your asset. And then remember, Amazon goes up every 10 years, right? So what if Amazon now is worth 2 million? Go ahead.
Pause 1 second. What he's saying, I hope the audience person is still there, is he is taking his stock portfolio, he is borrowing against it,
You're cutting out,
turning
man.
his.
I don't know
I'm
if your
sorry, I keep
reception's
getting phone calls.
bad.
I
Okay.
keep getting phone calls. Sorry, I get calls all day. What he's doing is he is turning his asset into a debt. It's that simple. Is he has assets he's borrowing against, therefore converting his asset into a debt. That is how millionaires become billionaires, my friend. It's
And then let's
it's
talk
that
about it.
simple.
And then let me just talk about it. So once again, I have $1 million of stock. If I sell it, I get $500,000 of cash, correct? Let's say now instead I take that $1 million of Amazon and I borrow that 1.5 million, right? Let's say in 10 years now, my Amazon stock is worth 2 million. So that means I borrowed 1.5 million and now I have an asset that's worth 2 million instead of a million. Now, why would I want that 500 grand of cash? That that 500 grand of cash is worthless. It devalues. It
Right.
devalues over time. So you see what
Right.
you're doing is you're never giving up your asset. And when you need cash, you're just taking a debt on it. And hypothetically, if it's a good asset like Amazon, you took a 1.5 mil, or I'm sorry, you took a $500,000 loan. They won't give you 1.5. If you have Amazon and you take a 500K loan, I mean, who cares if it's worth 2 million 10 years later and you still have that $500,000 debt? It's worth 2 million now and it's
Right.
going to keep going up in value.
I think I think where some people like I said, I think they get confused because they want to use the stock
Wolf
market
of
for a
Wall
few
Street.
different things.
It's
What's that?
Fugazi. It's here. It's there. Remember Wolf of Wall? It's Fugazi. It's there. It's gone.
No, not though. It's not because mathematically you're just converting your asset into debt, and that's how the IRS sees it. That's how the government see it. And if you understand accounting, that's all you're doing. And it's something like when people, I think what people want to do is they want to buy and sell a stock. Okay, they want to put $100 in the stock market and be able to pull 125 out. And I understand that because there are times that I do that where I will make stock trades and I will remove money from those accounts and I will use that as an income. But to do that with a large portion of my assets would be not so smart. There it depends what your goal is and what you're trying to do. And I think that's the best place to start. Is you have to think what you're trying to do with it, and do you need the money? And I think that also helps you make good investment choices for you, because what Dean is doing may not work for you at this moment. It may in the future when you're a little more financially stable. But what he's doing is for somebody who is maybe in a decent position where he doesn't need to touch money. So people's circumstances can affect that.
Well, no, I do touch money once again. So there's two ways to do this, right? You can buy and sell, and let's just say you sell for $100 of profit, and let's just say hypothetically government takes half. Or the other option is you obviously take a $100 loan out, right? So you're getting the same amount of cash out. But here's the deal: is you now still own that asset that can go up in value. And then here's some other important things. Remember inflation, right? We're all just trying to beat inflation. The government keeps printing money. So when you have the option to go on Interactive Brokers and you can borrow $500,000 for 0.5%, that's basically free money, right? And it's tax deductible. So why would you want to sell that asset that can't go up in value? You know, like the only time I don't recommend taking loans on your assets is if it's more than 3%. Because remember, inflation, everyone's like, how do you pay it back? How do you pay it back? The asset goes up more than the loan, right? So if I buy something and inflation causes the asset to go up more than 0.5%, I don't need to pay off the debt because the asset keeps going up in value and the debt gets smaller and smaller and smaller because the dollar gets devalued. And I guess a lot of people just don't understand that. And that's why it doesn't make any sense. But if you understand that Amazon is probably going to 2x or 3x over 10 years, right? If you can get a loan that's charging you 0.5%, that's a way better deal than selling your Amazon and then just having cash. So there's no need to pay off the debt because your debt is like 0.5% interest, right? And let's just do the math. Let's just say I borrow $100,000, right? If I borrow $100,000 and the interest is 0.5%, that means I'm paying, what is that, $500 a year in interest. You don't think Amazon will go up more than $500 a year? You know, if you have $100,000 of Amazon, and that's why there's no need to pay the debt back. There's no need. It's not like people think it's like a mortgage or something. It's like it's not a mortgage. All you need to do is have that asset grow faster than 0.5%. And if you're a long-term investor in a really good company, most solid companies over 10 years, they do way better than 10%. So there's no need to pay back the debt because the asset you own is going to grow faster than whatever the debt payment is.
I understand what you're doing, but I try to make sure like the audience understands what you're doing. I think there's a lot of people who will come on a TikTok, and I think it's great that they want to know more because obviously they're looking at a channel like yours, and so they have an interest, which is fantastic. I just think sometimes I think it's a little bit overwhelming for them, and they don't quite understand what you're doing.
It worked. Someone in the comments is like, it makes sense now. So at least someone in the comments got it. So someone in my comments is like, that's a better explanation. So you know what? Thank you for asking this question. So I had to keep re-explaining it. But yeah, eventually you'll understand.
I think like the sometimes the information you give, I think you assume you're talking to somebody who's knowledgeable. I don't think you're doing it on purpose. But like I think for the guy,
but that's why I bring you on to do this. This is why we do the dual live streams, because you're right. When I explain it to you, it makes sense, but it may not make sense to other people.
Right. And that's the only reason that I'm still at work doing my thing. The only reason I'm willing to come on is I do have an interest in helping smaller people understand it, because I don't think like when I was younger, I was very, very poor. I'm a child of immigrants, and we didn't understand. I was never taught this. My family's from Greece.
Okay, nice. Love Greece.
So this was never taught to me. And if I could have been like an 18-year-old on TikTok and had somebody just feeding me this information for a couple hours every afternoon, I would probably be in a much, much better place than I'm in a decent place now. But you guys, some of you guys who are watching it, and even if you're my age and you're just getting into it, there's still time. But you have to understand that like this is really probably the number one avenue to get real wealth in America. Period. End of story. And if the quicker you get some of these concepts, like when he's talking about like, I think what I'm gonna do, like I started this Robinhood for my TikToks. We started it with $200. And when I first started doing TikTok, I was using other platforms, and people are like, I just don't know how to use it. Like, okay, well, what are you using? Everybody kept saying Robinhood. I said, we'll open up a Robinhood and we'll do that. And we started at 200 earlier this month, and we got it up to 1,600. So as soon as I hit 2,000, I'm gonna margin it, and we'll start bringing people on so I can show them instantly, just from day one. Okay, hey, watch my buying power go from 2,000 to 4,000, and we'll start working on my channel that way and start showing people like, hey, watch how we're leveraging this, and watch how quickly we're gonna like. It took us a month to get from 200 to 2,000. It'll take us probably just a couple weeks if we're lucky to even double that. And watch how quickly responsible leverage works. And then you can start getting into some of what with Robinhood's not a great platform for doing what he wants to do. Well, once we switch that over, it's terrific. Hi there. Good afternoon. How are you?
This is the Chinese dictator. Say hi. Her name is the Chinese dictator. I call her the Chinese dictator.
Are you being held against your will, sir?
No, she's a good dictator. She's a good dictator.
Your sister
Listen,
using
she's been working. Crack the whip.
She's benevolent like Xi Jinping. She's benevolent, yeah, right?
Okay, your sister and your parents all said that. Don't call me dictator.
But it's funny. I like to joke.
Why it's funny?
Good afternoon. How are you, ma'am?
Hi.
Hello.
You know his name is Trump Cena.
My nickname is Trump Cena. That's what she calls me.
Trump Cena?
Yeah, because I call her the dictator.
I'm fairly certain, judging by his smile, you can call him whatever you want. He'll be happy.
They say hi, Annie. The audience says hi. Hi to her.
Hello.
She wanted to get in here and give her opinion. But hey, I think so. I got some questions in my chat where they're like, "Hey, I have $20,000 and like, how do I invest?" You just follow him. Check out his Robinhood account, because a lot of people like I don't go through that level of detail. So if you really do want to see a small account grow, follow him and watch his Robinhood grow, and he's going to start using margin so you can learn. Like if you want more detail.
For the better answer to that individual is, what you need to do is you need to take a moment and you need to write down what your goals are. All right. I have $20,000 and I want to put it aside and I want it to make money for me long term. I have $20,000 and I want to flip it into $40,000 tomorrow. Regardless of what you write down, you need to start by writing down what is my goal for this $20,000. And regardless of how realistic your goal is, just write it down. Once you start there, then you can start deciding where I should invest. Because if you are, and also your age can matter quite a bit. I want to invest this $20,000 and I want to pull it out of the market next year. I want to pull it out in 20 years. I need it in 30 days. The answer to you answering your own questions first is going to determine what you should invest in. So don't ever ask somebody, what should I invest in? Think to yourself first, what are my goals for this money? And you will make a very smart decision. If you just start throwing money wildly at anything, you're going to lose. So first take a time, get a pen and a piece of paper. I want to do this. I want it, and you can have multiple answers for that goal. I want to do this, 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 and this, and we can figure that out for you, because it may be, hey, we're going to put $1,000 here. We're going to put $2,000 here. We may even divide it up on platform. We're not just going to dump 20 grand into a Robinhood. We're going to put 5K in TD. We're going to put 5K in Charles Schwab. So you can have multiple answers to your goal, and there's always a solution to your problem. If you say you want to turn that 20K into 100K tomorrow, we may screw it up. So if your goal is unrealistic, the more unrealistic your goal, the more likely we're going to screw up your money. But if you have realistic goals and you are focused on them, we can definitely find an answer for where you should be investing money. But you first have to start with what is it you want to obtain with that money. And then you can start you'll be surprised if you do that yourself, how quickly you will start finding your own answers to that question.
I agree. And if you want to make it really easy, what I tell people is check out monopolies. If you're new to investing, invest in a monopoly.
If you are an audience of Dean and you're paying attention to some of the stuff he's talking about, you really don't have 20K to invest. You have a lot more than that. You know what I'm saying? Like when you start leveraging that money, you have much more than 20K, provided you're putting it in certain markets with certain assets. So you do not have 20K, my friend. You probably have closer to 40 right off the bat, at least 30. So
yeah,
like
if you buy 20,000 of Amazon stock, you get. I was gonna say if you buy $20,000 of Amazon stock, you get another 10 grand to invest.
Right. So the amount of money you have, you're wrong. And like I said, you have to. I can. It will be interesting to hear more about your situation. You're welcome to message me if you want to give me just some minor details like your age.
Live stream, man. Go on to his live stream. You can ask him questions.
Yeah, you're welcome to shoot me comments because it's like I said, those types of things will help determine to make to help you make good investments. And the last thing that I want you to do is do not go onto a live stream and ask a question like that and follow somebody like my information blindly or his information blindly. I want you to ask the same question to 100 other people before you ever invest. And I want you to
10's more reasonable.
Yeah,
10 people.
Absorb all that information. 10 people, sure, whatever. Because ask more people the same question and get multiple answers and absorb all of that information, and then I want you to make your own decision. Because the last thing I want you to do is just to follow somebody blindly and feel like you made a mistake. Because this is not something that you find education on.
And by the way, Annie's not Filipina. She's the Chinese dictator. There's no Filipino dictator. Oh yeah, I guess Duarte is a Filipino dictator. So no, she's not.
Is that why you're?
What about crypto leverage? Someone's asking questions on crypto leverage. Have you had? I'm not a big fan because it's really expensive to borrow with crypto.
It's not my area of expertise. Dean introduced me to somebody. His name is Party Finance. He's somebody who's really experienced with this. I do deal in crypto. I am not sure yet that I want to deal with it with leverage. I was actually reading an article about this morning about how those 100x leverages are what's swinging the market, and it's dangerous. And I mean, if you are 5xing something, it's dangerous. If you are 10xing something, it's obviously something that you should be concerned with. It is attractive to me, particularly on the short side. But it's something that I would strongly recommend that if you have a basic question like that, you probably should not touch it. It's really something. I mean, and that's just being true because I'm quite knowledgeable in this field, not cryptos in particular, but it's something that I wouldn't be comfortable touching. So I would just use.
Do me a favor. If you're in my chat, can you guys drop Party Finance's name on the chat, and that way people can check it out? I think you can use the @ sign.
He is a guy. He's very knowledgeable. He's not necessarily personable, so he is somebody if you ask him a question that he doesn't like, you'll probably get the vibe that if you ask him about a certain coin and he doesn't like the coin, you will know instantly. So he is somebody who can be a little bit blunt. But he really knows his stuff in the crypto space. This is a guy who I said, hey, what do you think about Bitcoin today? And he gave me a specific number, and nailed this point. Here's a reentry point, and missed it by $100. And I thought that was probably just luck. He messaged me the next day. It was on Friday. Messaged me on Saturday. Same damn thing. And then 2 hours later, same damn thing. So I don't invest in the only one he got wrong was yesterday, but who could have known the Elon tweet at 3:55? And he even said he'd give me an Ethereum entry point and said, I'm not sure about it. That's the first time he said that. And sure enough, tweets in. But I have been making money on crypto with this guy. I was a long-term Ethereum and Bitcoin holder. do not touch any other coins myself. I was a long-term holder. He's kind of got me playing around with the market a little bit more. And he's somebody you could definitely talk to. But crypto in general with leverage, I would be careful. And at the very least, I don't know if your platform is on if you don't know about the stock market, I always recommend paper trading, which a lot of platforms offer now, which is basically you investing fake money and they just kind of keep track of your account, just like a regular account, so you can see how you would have done if you made those trades. I don't know if that's available on that platform, but that may be something
You
you
can
can
do
look
it. You can actually do it on Interactive Brokers for stocks. So I highly recommend everyone here get a paper trading account on Interactive Brokers so you can at least learn how to use their platform because they have the lowest borrowing, like hands down.
I think it would be cool if they did that with the crypto leverage, because somebody could see how fast you can crap out at 100x leverage. I mean, if you are $1,000 100x leverage, that thing only needs to tick up a couple dollars. You're done. If you're shorting Bitcoin at 100x leverage and that thing goes up $50, you're done. So and that could happen in 2 seconds. So I would be just use caution, and that's with any investment. You need to use caution, have it understand what you're doing, and if you can't swim, just put your feet in the water. Don't jump in. You know.
When I took out I took out a Bitcoin loan, and unfortunately on BlockFi the minimum is $10,000. So I had to put down, because I didn't want to worry about getting a margin call. I put down $50,000 of Bitcoin to get it. So
did you
it's like the opposite. So I put the. Go ahead.
You're talking about
you
buying.
Cut out. One more.
I stopped you from buying Coinbase earlier, and it's moving again. I feel bad. If you're gonna pick it up.
I bought. Even though I listened, I still bought like half a share of Coinbase. So at least I bought half a share. But yeah. So when I got my leverage on BlockFi, you can do 50% down. So to get the $10,000 loan, I could have just put down 20 grand. But to make sure I wouldn't get margin called, I put down 50 grand as collateral. So I wouldn't get it, because Bitcoin obviously crashed and it went down to like at one point 28,000, right? And so if I did the 50% margin, I would have got some of my crypto probably margin called. But instead I did the highest amount, and I'm really glad because I got $10,000 to buy the dip. I used my Bitcoin to buy more Bitcoin.
That's all. And there's certainly times where like leveraging those slightly could definitely be appropriate, and it could definitely pay big. So I'm not discouraging you from doing it. I would just strongly recommend you really have a firm grip on what you're doing. You need to go in with it. I want this entry point and I want this exit, and I'm not going to be worried if it hits here and I came out here and all meant enter, exit. I'm comfortable with that. Now reevaluate the next trade. Don't evaluate that trade anymore as profitable. And I would make sure it's a really, really focused effort, because I don't want to see somebody get hurt on just I tried and it just didn't happen, because most of the time, if you just kind of ease into something with a focus, you're going to have a better level of success. But definitely check out my boy Party Finance. He is a cool guy. He really has a firm grip on not just cryptos and some of the major cryptos, but the altcoins. He has kind of a real thumb on the industry itself and some of the more details. He's a wealth of knowledge. I mean, he's my go-to guy now.
So someone mentioned this in the chat, and I kind of want to bring it up to you. There's robots that dollar cost average for crypto. You can literally get a robot that will, I guess, I don't know what platform, if you can talk about it more, but that's actually a great idea for crypto, to just have a robot. I mean, do the dollar cost averaging for you.
I mean, you have to understand, in the stock market, you're competing against AIs. I mean, that's been common in the stock market forever. I think I've heard of platforms like even Robinhood with the stock market will set this up for you. If you had a stock that you like and you wanted just just have like a recurring investment, I've seen a lot of platforms that would have this. I think it's fantastic. I know it's something that you endorse. I think it's a way that you can certainly, if you're constantly trying to time the market, a lot of people do not. It's not successful. Because
And
oftentimes,
can you explain dollar cost average? Because I always get this in the chat. Always people are like, explain dollar cost average.
so what he's doing is, here's Bitcoin, okay? This is
Give me
what
1 second.
Bitcoin,
I'll be right back.
go ahead. This is what Bitcoin is like all the time, all right? It's going up to peaks and down, up and down, up and down. So what you're doing, dollar cost averaging, is you are just constantly buying, regardless of the price, time of day, or whatever. So you're sometimes, like, let's say today you bought here. 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 Today you bought here, here. Regardless of the point that you bought, even though occasionally it's at the high and occasionally at the low, the longer this pattern here is over time, as it continues on and on, the average of your Bitcoin, the average price of your Bitcoin is going to end up somewhere in the middle. So now, rather than constantly trying to time the market, you are just consistently putting money into the market. And as time goes on, your cost is very, very even. So you're never the guy who put in $1,000 at 60K. You may not be the guy who put in $10,000 in at 26K, but you are the guy who is just nice and consistent, to where some guys, the water is here, some guys, the water is real here, but you are always right here. You are never not going to breathe. And if as time continues to go on, you are increasing your holding of the asset, but you have never tried to time the market and made a really, really big mistake. It's basically the difference between being like a bee and an ant. You become the ant, just consistently working, and over time, you're going to take all these little pieces of dirt and it's going to make a hill. You know what I'm saying? And that's cost averaging. You are going to always end up just nice and consistent. It's actually very difficult to make a mistake with even with an asset class that's not crypto. You can do the same with stocks, with some of the companies that are the platforms that are offering fractional shares. If you're worried about picking up Apple or Amazon at a high, cost average, and you will see it's not always clear week 1 or week 2. Watch it after 60 days, 90 days, 1 year. You will. It really pays off. And it's somebody, if you are new to investing, this is something that's really going to save you from those big mistakes. And when it does peak up, you're in a great spot. And if it dips low, you're not in such a bad spot. It's really just limiting your risk.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on YouTube. I actually got to get going to the gym, but I really like this class explanation. So there's people in my chat that are like, oh, thank you so much for explaining this. I feel like a lot of people say dollar cost average, but no one really understands what they're saying. So I'm going to go ahead and put this lecture, if you want to call it, on YouTube. And I unfortunately got to go, but highly consider follow him, subscribe to him, and go on his live stream. And when I can't explain something, you should consider following him and asking him.
If somebody wants to jump on live with me, I'm happy to continue this type of conversation. But
I'm going to be leaving, so join his live.
Yeah, if somebody wants to jump on live, because I prefer a conversation like this. It's hard for me just to go live and read comments because I'm working simultaneously. So if somebody wants to do a live me or whatever this is called and ask some questions and stuff, I'm happy to stay on for a little while. So, all right,
okay.
Dean,
I gotta go. This is definitely going on my YouTube, so check it out. If you don't understand it again, this will be on my YouTube, so you can play it and he'll explain it to you again.
Awesome. All right, buddy. Good job.
Bye.